Earth is being visited by intelligently controlled extraterrestrial spacecraft. In other words, some UFOs are alien spacecraft. Most are not. I don't care about those. Most isotopes aren't fissionable. I don't care about the ones that aren't if I want to build a reactor.
If somebody who had the clearance to carry nuclear weapons or launch nuclear weapons saw these objects over a nuclear facility and reported it and have documents to prove it happened, this is dispositive. That's what someone who is wanting to look into this, who says, well, could this really be true and I don't know about it? They need to look at that, and we've assembled it. We have a 600-page book of top secret documents and the transcripts of these witnesses. We have videotapes.
So I began watching the newspapers for any newspaper reports. I started buying magazines that had a UFO article in the magazine and collecting these, and from those I would get names and addresses. And I often called the people who wrote the articles to get them. Then I'd go interview those people myself, and if they took pictures, I'd try to get a copy of the picture, and frequently did. And then I began trading the pictures that I already had with other people that had pictures to get more pictures, and eventually built a library of pictures, probably the largest in private hands in the world. Is over 4,000 pictures of real UFOs. Now, if I can collect that many alone as a single individual working by myself, how many pictures do you think the government has got when every government employee is a potential investigator? Every agent on trained investigator, all collecting and contributing to the government file. They must have hangars full of pictures.
What Air Force Manual 10-206 says is that a U.S. Air Force pilot who sees a UFO has to report it in a particular way and manner. They outline in this form exactly how to report it. They say list the size, the shape, direction of travel, how big the object was, what were the wind conditions like. And you go through this big form and say, you know, your UFO sighting. The manual then goes on to state that you have to forward this to the NORAD installation. This is that one Air Force base that claims, oh no, we haven't collected these things since 1969. The problem is this form was last updated in October of 2004.
In 1977, I proposed and became director of a proposed extraterrestrial communications study done in conjunction with the Jimmy Carter White House. Jimmy Carter, of course, had a close encounter with a UFO in the company of 10 members of the Leary, Georgia Lions Club in 1969 while he was running for governor of Georgia. While he was governor of Georgia in 1973, he had filed an official UFO report. It's now on the intranet so everybody can see it. The 1976 U.S. presidential campaign was extraordinary because it was waged between Jimmy Carter, on the one hand, he's had a close encounter, and the first campaign waged on a platform which included a disclosure plank of sorts. Jimmy Carter was asked on various occasions, and this is documented, once elected, would he open up the extraterrestrial UFO files, and he said yes, he would.
We have over 450 military and intelligence witnesses. They range from generals and brigadier generals to air traffic controllers and strategic air command personnel in the Air Force to civilian people in the FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration, to astronauts and cosmonauts. And it's an enormous database of people who have up close and personally seen UFOs or worked in those projects in their capacity as a government or military person.
Even with the massive amount of pressure governments can exert to maintain the ongoing cover-up, people continue to come forward and tell what they have personally experienced.
Like that, 15 miles in a fraction of a second. I disengaged the autopilot to push the nose over because we were at a collision course. And when I did, I just saw it head on. It's 300 feet in diameter. We knew that. We had a knowing, like somebody was telling us, 300 feet in diameter. So at that time, I heard a hell of a noise. And I said to him, what the hell was that? He said, well, the navigator and the radio man ducking fell, hit their head, one hit their head, hurt their arm, they were scrambling on the deck. So I thought it hit us underneath. So I said, well, where the hell did it go? And Fred said, "It's right over to the right. I can see it." I couldn't see it. So it drifted forward about 5 miles from it. It never got to the altitude that we were at, a few hundred feet below. I began to watch it. Well, we knew then it was a friendly encounter. They just wanted us to see him. So then I went to engage the autopilot again. The magnetic compass was doing like this. And the bird dogs, which is direction finder, the two bird dogs, they were pointing right at this thing, just vibrating like this. And there was a lot of electrical things in the airplane that went haywire. So I told Fred, "Did you see that go?" He says, "Anyway, it was close. It was doing this." And so I went back to the vacuum operator. That's the old airplane, the vacuum operator, hydraulic operator control. So I go back to that. So then we sat there and watched it for a while because it just paced us, stayed with us. And so the other crew wanted to land at large engines, so I had sent back. They came forward. Al Jones, which was the original plane commander, took my seat and was still there. He was watching. And as I was walking back in, he decided he was going to chase it. And so he disengaged. When I get back aft, I wanted to see how the passengers were doing. They're all on the right-hand side. They could see it underneath the wing. And then, I recognized the doctor back. He was a psychiatrist out of Bethesda Naval Hospital, plus a lot of other things. So I said, I better talk to him first. So Cornell said, "Did you see what we saw, Doc?" He grinned at me and looked me straight down. "Yeah." And he says, "Yeah, that was a flying saucer." I didn't look at it. I don't believe in such things.
When I was 16 years old, I was walking down the street in Arlington, Virginia, and saw 7 red light type UFOs over Washington that made headlines around the world. And since then, I've seen 8 alien vehicles on 8 occasions.
The sightings I've had are more things flying right by or bluish green orb things. I've had 5 sightings. Never reported them because I don't need the grief. But the trick is you can't mention the company name or be in company uniform. 2 of my friends, excellent pilots. One of them was a famous pilot, and they both got fired for doing interviews like this, but they were in uniform.
Since I've been a child, I'm looking up into the sky thinking, is there more than just us human beings in this huge universe? And now I do believe there is more life forms, different life forms, and more dimensions than we can perceive.
I've had several sightings. Probably the closest sighting would have been back in 1974. I was driving back between Ottawa and Montreal, going towards Montreal. And I remember going on the highway, and we came within literally probably several hundred feet of a huge, huge ship. And at first, we were driving away here, and I'm thinking, am I really seeing this? And we slowed down and sort of peeked out, and an enormous, enormous ship. I would have to say that it was two, three times the size of a 747. And it completely silently glided over across the highway, and we saw it go off into the distance. So there was no mistaking that was not anything at that time that would have existed conventionally or militarily.
I was a lieutenant from the Bulgarian Air Force. My plane was MiG-21. What I believe there is much more going on than we can see with our naked eye.
Being in the 3rd Battalion, 7th Marine Regiment, we were pretty active. We were on the East Coast in an area called the Punch Bowl, which was just down the road from Heartbreak Ridge. We had a lull in the fighting, so we just sat around and played poker. And somebody looked up and said, "What the heck is that?" We all looked up, and there was, it looked for all the world like a chrome hubcap setting up above us. And if you looked at it, it kind of had a watery, shimmery look and a little bit bluish white periphery. And from time to time, it would appear to be elliptical and sometimes circular. So imagine it was rocking a little bit. And it's just a hint of a dome sometimes on it.